Welcome back once again to the Mandalorian After Show. This is Sean,
And it's Chris.
and tonight we're going to be talking about Chapter 21, The Pirate, Season 3, Episode 5. And let's see, Din Djarin, we've got Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed in here trying to protect its planet. Not too much happened this episode, really, but you could say that for the whole season.
Well, yeah, that's very clear for the whole season.
Yeah.
This episode, though, I enjoyed a lot more than I
Oh,
have definitely the last episode,
yeah.
the one prior to this one. So this one here, I was entertained by, I enjoyed it, the whole works. I think it's lazy writing. We'll get into where I think it's really lazy and how this show is maybe slowly losing me. But
Mm,
we'll kind of talk, and I think that's almost a feeling across a lot of people. They're kind of like, "What's going on? Why are we doing this? What's happening? Is this just a launching point for other shows?" That's what it was
yeah.
last season. Now we got a character that showed up this week, which I was pumped to see. But they're just setting him up for another show,
Right.
and are they setting him up to be, you know, the Marshal? Remember how those are supposed to be some type of like
Right.
show that's supposed to come out revolving around Cara Dune being the Marshal.
Yeah.
What if they're setting him up to be that character and kind of like plug that hole for future references? I don't know, but we can get
I
into
don't
it.
know. I don't know, but the one well, I say rebel pilot, they're not rebels anymore. The one New Republic pilot, X-wing pilot, is kind of takes the lead in this episode. We follow him a lot. He basically gets word. I don't know what is the what starts out the show. Oh, it's Grief Karga and Navarro
Yeah,
and that big Pirates of the Caribbean looking space alien
Dream
guy.
Shed or Sheet or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, seaweed face. He's up there with his Corsair.
he was a waste. I bet he could have been an amazing character, and they just wasted him.
Yeah.
I just that was
It was it
disappointing.
was like one and done kind of thing. He had a nice introduction a few episodes ago, just to basically the payoff is him crashing into the city. And this episode, I think my major problem with it, besides all the problems with season 3 thus far, was that this really felt like a TV show to me. Sometimes Mandalorian feels very cinematic and like this Mandalorian is inconsistent because sometimes it looks
Very.
as good as Andor or as good as the stuff that's released in the theater, and then other times it looks very much like a TV show. I was getting Book of Boba Fett vibes a lot during the in the streets fighting and shooting throughout.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't get that feeling, but
It it felt closed space to me, and it felt like, this grand planet basically is 37 people, townspeople.
yeah, when they all kind of met up on the outside, I was like, only it
Yeah,
was a couple dozen of them. Yeah, that seemed weird. I was like, there should be a lot more of you out here.
and that's a
If
limitation on I guess they don't have the budget to, like, copy and paste people, in the computer to make it look like there's more running in the streets or running away, but, it felt a little low budget, this episode to me. There were a lot of times where I was like, "Ooh," I was getting flashbacks of, like, those mopeds in
oh
Tatooine and stuff.
no, yeah,
Yeah, and the little spin
the Vespa
moves.
gang.
Yeah, the Vespa gang, yeah. But yeah, so, Apollo Creed, he's desperate, and, Grief Karga, I mean. He's desperate, he calls out to anyone who will listen, and, how does who intercepts it? I guess how does he get that message?
I don't know.
I forget.
Honestly, it's terrible for me to say that we're doing the show, but I've somebody hands it over to him. It's almost like was it a droid that handed it to him, like a protocol droid?
Somehow, yeah, somehow this card I don't even know this character's name either. See, that's the problem with The Mandalorian. It's just so all over the place this season where it's like I kind of know this guy from before, but not really. I think you're right. I think this episode was going to be centered around Cara Dune. They have somewhere they wanted to go because this episode would have made a lot more sense if it wasn't this Carson guy and it was Cara Dune actually
Yeah.
that received that message. Because we can conceptually I can see an episode following her traveling to the New Republic and asking for help and getting
And not
denied.
getting any help and taking it into her own hands to go ahead and
Right. And
find
her
Buffalo.
going back and seeing Din Djarin and maybe getting a warmer welcome from him, that kind of thing. Like, I could
Yeah.
see that play out. That would be a nice way to introduce her back into the fold, right? But of course, with the stuff with Gina Carano, that's not going on anymore. But um, and yeah, it's just one of those things. It was kind of all over the place. One more episode. I think maybe enjoyed it less than you did.
I think it was just all the action, all the go, 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 the
Yeah,
space battle. It wasn't even a space battle. It was just just an aerial battle, the bombardment, the fighting. The actual Mandalorians.
yeah.
Seeing their badassery in action. Seeing Paz Vizsla drop down with that freaking the big almost like Gatling gun
The
type thing
Gatling gun. Yeah,
and
yeah.
wiping out things, or seeing the actual armor walk up behind these dudes, this wreck house.
I did like that. When it was time for the Mandalorians to come together and take care of some business, I did like that. And I liked Paz Vizsla's little speech that he gave by the fire, as far as like, hey, I've had problems with this guy before, but he saved my son. And what are we if not, Mandalorians are made to like just take the fight
Mhm.
to people. So let's go.
I didn't know what Paz Vizsla was going to do when he walked up there.
Yeah,
He took like that basically the hammer type thing. It was like his turn to speak.
right.
I wasn't sure where that was really going, and I like the
Hmm.
fact that they kind of rallied around him because I mean those two, both Bo and Din, rallied around them to save his kid. And I think that's if that didn't
Right.
happen in the episode prior, we wouldn't have had this interaction this episode.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair point. And towards the end of the episode, not to kind of skip around too, but I was really surprised at that conversation. I like any conversation scene with the armor and Bo-Katan, but I like this one too, where I was totally blown away when she asked her to remove her helmet. Because I was like Bo, I was kind of freaking out there for a second, like, uh-oh, is she getting like kicked out or like what
Yeah.
happened?
What do you think of Bo's like her response? Her response was hesitation. She's like, "Oh, I'm,
Sure.
I'm not supposed to do this. This is not the way. The way
Yeah,
is for me to keep it on." And she's basically adopted the way since she's been a part of them.
right.
And now she's being told by basically the leader, "Go ahead and remove your helmet."
Yeah.
So I can see like the immediate hesitation, and I love that she played that perfectly.
Yeah, she did.
And how
Yeah,
when she's walking out holding her helmet, and everyone's looking at her, even Paz is like, she shows her face, but
right.
she walks the way of both
Yeah.
types of Mandalorians, which is interesting.
That is interesting, and I think the whole time I was wondering, I was like, "Does the armor have some ulterior motive here?" But by the end, and she tells everyone that, like, "Look, we've got to come together, and this is the only way for her to like walk both worlds." And she's still like cool with us and stuff. I'm not like going to go around calling her apostate,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, she's going to have to leave us for a bit and come bring others back here with us to join us.
It's almost like when
Um,
she's there, she'll follow the way, her helmet be on at all times. But
right,
when she's away from them, she's basically giving her the freedom, take it off,
yeah.
talk to them, tell them what's going on, what's happening, bring us all together as one.
I do love the idea of the Mandalorians coming together, and you and I have talked about this a couple episodes now as far
And
as a
that's why I
bigger
think the
story.
end of this episode got lazy.
Oh,
The
let's hear
right
about it.
the
All right.
the writing is lazy about the whole with Moff Gideon
Yeah.
being captured, and then that little piece of Beskar being wedged in the ship, and they're like, "Well, the Mandalorians must have, that's lazy. I don't need that. I don't need the New Republic now to be targeting the Mandalorians. Are they going to be going to Navarro and targeting that group there, and then they're going to have to go back
Right.
into hiding? I mean, this whole I just
That
that ruined the episode almost for me.
Yeah, that was a weird thing for him to like. There were scans and like, how does Beskar get wedged? Like, how does that happen? I wonder in a fight. Like, anyway, how does that even happen? But like, yeah, I'm with you in the same way. It's just like it was just kind of a stinger to the end the episode on. At first, when he found that derelict ship, at first I thought maybe it was Thrawn and Ezra's ship because I can't remember what kind of
They were
ship
they
they
were
were
on a
on.
big cruiser
Okay, that
that
makes
got
more
pulled through
sense.
the actual hyperspace by those by the
Yeah.
portal.
But the only reason I had Rebels on the brain was because of the introduction of old Zeb.
Oh,
I forget his
dude,
last name, but
I was pumped. Let's go ahead and take a look at the clip here. But I was freaking out when I seen him.
yeah,
Too bad. I really thought Navarro was gonna make it.
And forward this to Coruscant. Request permission to intercede.
They haven't returned a dispatch in weeks. They're swamped. We'll never get an answer in time.
Then I'm just gonna have to go there and talk to them myself. They can't ignore me face to face.
I like your attitude. Good luck. You're gonna need it.
I love seeing him, but even when I was doing prep for the show, at the time I didn't realize it was a quick 30-second throwaway spot.
Yeah.
That's all that was, and it was setting up for other things, and that's what I disliked the most. But I love the way how they made him look. He sounded right. He looked right. I
Yeah.
mean, when he was walking in, he carried himself properly. Everything about Zeb there was fantastic.
You could tell it's the same voice actor they're using from Rebels, and I feel the same way. I was kind of freaking out at first. I was like, "Is that him?" And I was like, in my head, I was like, "That has to be him," because there's not many of his species left
Yeah,
in the
there's only we
galaxy.
know of what 4. They went to a planet. 'Cause remember, it was like the elderly group, the
Yeah,
3, and then they found
right.
his planet, and then he stayed there first, and now I guess he's come back and then the whole thing. So we know of 4, but
Yeah,
there's got to be more. But it's only fit that was it.
yeah, that was definitely Zeb. I think even in the credits, it gives his name. I felt the same way though. I was like pumped, and then he was gone so fast. Like I would have loved, and this is probably because they were like testing out how he would look. This is the first time he's been on screen.
Yeah.
Let's just throw him out there for 30 seconds and see what the reception is. Maybe people will see it and be like, "Oh God, he looks terrible," and it'll be like a Sonic the Hedgehog thing, and he has to get redesigned. Maybe they just weren't ready to let him be in a full episode or something. But honestly, if that were possible, I would have preferred that if he decides to just like go with the Carson,
Dude, I would almost rather them giving us more Rebels. Instead
yeah,
of them going back to Coruscant,
right.
he went back to let's say the Ghost is there. And
Yeah,
say he actually goes to the Ghost, and Sabine's actually there, and there's Hera's there, and Hera's son is there. The team is there. I've got a
right.
feeling the whole team is on this planet where he's at. He's not by himself.
Yeah.
And they all go to find, try to help the situation.
Like if you're going to introduce or if you're going to have almost a full episode, like an hour episode and 45 minutes of that episode follow the cloner guy and his
Yeah.
thing on as skirmish on Coruscant and that whole weird kind of episode where everybody was thrown off, do the same thing here where you just like introduce the full live action Rebels cast and the internet would have freaked
Oh,
out.
yes. It would have absolutely
Yeah,
and they're not above it. They've done
right.
it in the Book of Boba Fett with Luke. They've done it in other shows where they've taken the Mandalorian season 2, where we had an episode with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So they have done it before. They're not above pulling away from the main show and giving us something else that's going to lead into something somewhere further.
And it's once again like that would have been a leap. Like it would have been a great introduction for stuff happening in Ahsoka and a new show, like you're mentioning. But it also would have it also could have tied in with them trying to get other Mandalorians back to Navarro if they run into Sabine. Like, hey, you're a
Mhm.
Mandalorian, why don't you join us? That kind of thing. Which may be on the way. But like this season has felt like it's been moving in slow motion, and there's only an 8 episode count, and yet we haven't done much of anything. We're already past 5 episodes in. There's only 3 episodes left. Like I don't know what is left of the season. And I know we're kind of repeating ourselves every episode. We have the same thing in our heads, but that's just how the season feels. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't help it.
I mean, the armor refers to the mythosaur.
Yeah,
So there's got to be something more that happens with the mythosaur and bow. Uh, but yeah, now I feel like they're going to be hunted. I think the New Republic is going to come down on Navarro, thinking they're the ones that actually freed Moff Gideon. And like I said earlier, that is lazy in my opinion. That's not
yeah,
something that I want to see. I don't want to see the Mandalorians become you know be wanted for freeing this guy when they
yeah.
weren't even the ones that freed him. It may have been a whole nother sect of these Mandalorians.
Yeah, is that what you're thinking? As far as do you think there's like a group of the Mandalorians that are loyal to Gideon and they went and got him, or is
I
it
don't know if
another?
loyal to Gideon's the way to put it. I think they
Yeah,
want their own justice for Gideon, and they don't trust the New Republic to hand out the justice.
okay. I
And
would
it's the
prefer that.
yeah, and it's the other sect. It's the Bo-Katan one that split away from them are the
Yeah,
ones that did it. But the New Republic's not going to see it that way. They're not going to care. They're going to see
right.
them as freeing Moff Gideon, no matter whatever happens.
I would prefer that instead of being a group loyal to him because then it just feels like a repeat of the Darth Maul stuff, and it's like we don't need to. We already had that as far as
Yeah,
like Mandalorians joining with Darth Maul and becoming kind of their own group. Like we don't
It
need
was on the
any kind of
moon of a Mandalore. I'm not sure which moon it was, but
yeah.
there's a whole nother dark sea, dark something. Yeah, there was a whole nother sect of Mandalorians back on in the heyday of the Mandalorians.
Yeah, and they don't need to repeat all that. So I would prefer it if it was like you said, like there was a group of Mandos that got wind of their own thing. Maybe right, maybe they were part of Bo-Katan's group. That would make sense because we haven't seen him this
Yeah.
season yet. So that would make more sense. I hope that's the case. But yeah. So I mean, another episode. Like I said, we got episodes 6, 7, and 8, and then season 3 is over and done with. And don't know when we'll have a season 4. I know we'll have a season of Ahsoka between now and then.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this one they need to turn this around. They need to turn
Yeah.
around pretty drastically because
Right.
if you're putting out content like Andor, which was phenomenal, and then Mando was, in my opinion, was the bar.
Yeah.
Mando was here, and everything else was trying to achieve it. And
Right.
in my opinion, I think Andor achieved it and surpassed it. So now what I want to see is them lift that bar again with next season of Mandalorian. Keep pushing that bar.
Yeah, you're right. Because when you compare these two, it's tough because Mandalorian is fun, but Andor was
Was
so
gritty.
well written. It was the production value was so great, like the effects, you felt it was movie quality, like, and it was a whole show. It was like what 10 episodes, and they were all like long episodes.
Yeah, they were like 45 minutes to like 50 minutes per episode, if I remember right.
Yeah, and it was even a longer episode count, or more of an episode count for the season. So I don't know. It's tough. It feels like they almost like rushed the season out just to kind of get it out. Which I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Lucasfilm and Disney Plus.
That's
I mean,
vast by itself. That's a whole
yeah,
nother
there are
show.
some things in the works behind the scenes, so maybe that was a part of it. But yeah,
Maybe it has something to do with they want to get Ahsoka out, and they couldn't get Ahsoka out without putting out season 3 of Mando because of some
right.
connections. So they
Yeah,
had to get it out, no matter damn the quality. We
yeah,
have to get it out because the only way that what's happening in Ahsoka is going to make sense is if Mando 3 is out.
and that just makes me worry about the quality of Ahsoka. Like I would think that would be Dave Filoni's baby, and you would make sure that that thing has like good storytelling and high quality production value, but I don't know. The polish is kind of wearing off a little bit as far as Star Wars on Disney Plus.
The best guard's getting tarnished.
It is, yeah. But that's gonna do it for us this week. I don't think there's much more to say about this episode. We kind of covered it all. We will be back next Friday at 8:30 p.m. to talk about Chapter 22, Episode 6 of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Hopefully, we're on an upturn here, and we'll be heading towards a big grand finale. One could hope.
I was hoping they were going to give us a big arc for the finale, but they're still building for that arc.
They're figuring something out. I don't know. It's a mystery.
There we go. Something.
But until then, yeah, we'll be back next week. We also have our Ted Lasso after show that we are doing every Wednesday night. So if you're watching Ted Lasso, be sure to join us for that. But until then, we think this is the way.
This is the way.
We'll see you.